pleasure, Nat.
47 years ago,
our founders were from this continent, a new nation.
conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition
That all people are created equal.
Now we are engaged in a great civil war.
Testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure.
We are met on a great battlefield of that war.
We've come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live.
It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this.
But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate,
We cannot consecrate.
we cannot hallow this ground. The brave souls living and dead who struggled here have
People
consecrated far above our core power to add or detract.
The world will little note nor long remember what we say here.
But it could never forget what they did here.
It is for us, the living rather, to take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion.
A great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave their last full measure of devotion.
Yet we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain,
And that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom,
and that government of the people,
by the people,
for the people,
shall not perish from the earth.
Okay.
Of course, the fact that I repeat a line, I think will be add to kind of like the hopefully the
Y'all boarded home though.
people are like, wait a minute, that's not right, and they'll go back and they'll look at it again and make sure that they're right about the fact that it's not right.
I cut that out right there.
Bring it up.
Can you edit that?
Yeah, just edit it out.
Bring it on
However you
home.
want to do it. However you want to do it. All right, gentlemen, we are ready, and or I am ready here at this point. And what I need to do is have you guys positioned so that you are in the camera for the podcast. Okay, so I need to have you somehow, maybe one here, one there. I don't know. So figure it out, please.
How come everyone else can say something on Facebook and don't get commented on? But as soon as I call people low-level scum, they want to comment.
Oh.
Well,
These are only getting commented on, not banned. I just got a 30-day suspension.
God, what you do now?
I called out this hypocritical.
Oh,
my-
I saw that. They suspended you for that?
Oh, I mean, she called Democrats demon rats, and then complained that people were getting using personal insults on her instead of logical argument.
Oh, please, give me a break. You only called her one idiot.
No, I need. Okay.
You
Well,
are so
maybe we
sensitive.
put you down that way. I don't know. Have you in two seats this way with the camera like this. Yeah.
But trust me, Greg, I'm pretty sure my 30-day banning period is just around the corner, knowing me and my mouth.
What I need to do is just start blocking these people right off instead of arguing with them. It's not worth it.
But it's so much fun.
It's happening a lot.
Who knows what the next punishment will be? Because they escalate them. If I'm up to a 1 month
Okay, we're
ban
there.
now, they may just delete my account next time. So,
Okay, fine. Do it the boring way.
start creating sock puppet accounts.
There we
Say
go.
yell at them and let those go.
All right, here we are on Sunday, December 13th. Is that right? Is it already December 13th? We got 12 days to Christmas?
October 13th. Oh, wait a minute. December 13th.
We're way past October.
Yeah, we got
Video Christmas, my true love
our folks, Jamil and Greg, who have obviously been doing something else this morning. What were you guys doing earlier?
We was doing our regular job of going in the street taking money from customers.
All right. All right. right? And
No.
now we have people calling in and writing in, going, well, what are you guys talking about?
No. We do historical characters downtown.
Mhm.
I play William Billy Flora,
Who was he?
and William Billy Flora. Some may call him a hero. I just call him a patron myself.
Oh, the lad's being modest. He's a hero. Alone, he stood against an entire platoon of redcoats like Horatius at the bridge.
Okay.
Along with a musket, who I named Betsy because I bought Betsy myself, and basically they call me a hero because I came up with the brilliant plan of lifting up the plank to our fortress to keep the British from entering, therefore giving us the advantage over them, and winning the Battle of Great Bridge, which only lasted for 5 minutes.
Really? Only last 5 minutes?
Only
huh?
lasted for 5 minutes.
Wow. Jeez. Well, we'll have to get more information about that 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anytime.
And so today, I'm sorry.
I'm much less romantic. I'm just a low-level bureaucrat. Gresham Nibble, the town surveyor. I make sure the streets run straight.
Well, you have a very important job, sir. Thank you very much for your work and your dedication to the cause.
Absolutely. I don't know why I said that. I'm not Russian.
But hey, it's all about the theater. And to that point, today we are a rehearsal for the Confessions of Nat Turner. And we have Mr. Thomas Gray and Mr. Nat Turner here. And gentlemen, take it away.
Agreeable to his own appointment on the evening he was committed to prison, with permission of the jailer, I visited Nat on Tuesday, the 1st of November, when, without being questioned at all, he commenced his narrative in the following words.
Sir, you have asked me to give a great history of the motives which induced me to undertake the late insurrection, as you call it. To do so, I must go back to the days of my infancy, and even before I was born. I was 31 years of age, the 2nd of October last, and born the property of Benjamin Turner of this county. In my childhood, a circumstance occurred which made an indelible impression on my mind and laid the groundwork of that enthusiasm, which has terminated so fatally to many, both white and black, and for which I am about to atone at the gallows. It is here
To atone at the gallows.
at the gallows.
Okay.
Atone at the gallows. It is here necessary to relate this circumstance, trifling as it may seem. It was the commencement of that belief which have grown with time, and even now, sir, in this dungeon, helpless and forsaken as I am, I cannot devise myself. Divest. Why do I want to say devise something badly? I cannot divest myself of being at play with other children. When 3 or 4 years old, I was telling them something which my mother overhearing me said it happened before I was born. I stuck to my story, however, and related the same things which went in her opinion to confirm it. Others being called on were greatly astonished, knowing that these things had happened, and caused them to say in my hearing, I surely would be a prophet, as the Lord had shown me things before my birth. And my father and mother strengthened me in this my first impression, saying in my presence, I was intended for some great purpose, which they had always thought for certain marks on my head and breast.
A parcel of excrescences which I believe are not all uncommon, particularly among Negroes, as I have seen several of the same. In this case, he has either cut them off, or they have, cut them off, or they have nearly disappeared.
My grandmother, which was very religious, and to whom I was much attached, my master, who belonged to the church, and other religious persons who visited the house, and whom I often saw at prayers, noticing the singularity of my manners, I suppose, and my uncommon intelligence for a child, remarked that I had too much sense to be raised, and if I was, I would never be to any service to anyone as a slave. To a mind like mine, restless, inquisitive, and observant of everything that was passing, it is easy to suppose that religion was the subject to which it would be directed. And although this subject principally occupied my thoughts, there was nothing that I saw or heard of to which my attention was not directed. The manner in which I learned to read and write not only had great influence on my own mind, as I acquired it with the most perfect ease, so much so that I now have no recollection whatsoever of learning the alphabet.
But to the astonishment of the family, one day when a book was shown to him to keep him from crying, he began spelling the names of different objects. This was a source of wonder to all in the neighborhood, particularly blacks, and this learning was constantly improved at all opportunities.
When I got large enough to go to work while employed, I was reflecting on many things that would present themselves to my imagination. And whenever an opportunity occurred of looking at a book, when the school children were getting their lessons, I would find many things that the fertility of my own imagination had depicted to me before. All my time not devoted to my master's service was spent either in prayer or making experiments in casting different things in molds made of earth, and attempting to make paper, gunpowder, and many other experiments that, although I could not perfect, yet convinced me of its practicability if I had the means.
Nat was not addicted to stealing in his youth, nor had he ever been. Yet such was the confidence of the Negroes in the neighborhood, even at this early period of his life, in his superior judgment, that they would often carry him with them when they were going on any roadway to plan for them. Growing up among them with this confidence in his superior judgment, and when this, in their opinions, was perfected by divine inspiration from the circumstances already alluded to in his infancy, and which belief was ever afterwards zealously inculcated by the austerity of his laugh and manners, which became the subject of remark by white and black.
Having soon discovered to be Greek, I must appear so, and therefore studiously avoided mixing in society, and wrapping myself in mystery, devoting my time to fasting and prayer.
By this time, having arrived at man's estate, and hearing the scriptures commented on in Hebrews, Nat was struck with that particular passage which says,
"Seek ye the kingdom of heaven, and all things shall be added unto you." I reflected much on this passage, and prayed daily for light on this subject. As I was praying one day at my plow, the Spirit spoke to me, saying, "Seek ye the kingdom of heaven, and all things shall be added unto you."
what do you mean by the Spirit?
The Spirit that spoke to the prophet in former days. And I was greatly astonished. And for 2 years, prayed continuously, whenever my duty would permit. And then again, I had the same revelations, which fully confirmed me in the impression that I was ordained for some great purpose in the hands of the Almighty. Several years rolled round, in which many events occurred to strengthen me in this my belief. At the time I reverted in my mind to the remarks made of me in my childhood and the things that had been shown me. And as it had been said to me in my childhood by those by whom I've been taught to pray, both white and black, and in whom I had the greatest confidence, that I had too much sense to be raised, and if I was, I would never be to any use to anyone as a slave. Now, finding I have arrived to man's estate and was a slave, and these revelations being made to me, I began to direct my attention to this great object to fulfill the purpose for which, by this time, I felt assured I was intended. Knowing the influence I had obtained over the minds of my fellow servants, not by the means of conjuring and such like tricks, for to them I always spoke of such things with contempt, but by the communion of the spirits, whose revelations I often communicated to them, and they believed and said my wisdom came from God. I now begun to prepare them for my purpose by telling them something was about to happen that would terminate in fulfilling the great promise that had been made to me.
About this time, Nat was placed under an overseer, from whom he ran away, and after remaining in the woods 30 days, he returned to the astonishment of the Negroes on the plantation who thought he had made his escape to some other part of the country, as his father had done before.
But the reason for my return was that the Spirit appeared to me and said, I had my wishes directed to the things of this world, and not to the kingdom of heaven, and that I should return to the service of my earthly master. For he who knoweth his master's will, and doubteth not, shall be beaten with many stripes. Stripes. Had it right, got it wrong.
So it's doeth.
Say it again.
It's not doubt, it's doeth. 2 syllables.
Where are you?
For he,
Doeth it not.
Okay, I see. Thank you. For he knoweth his master's will, and doeth it not, shall be. Okay, that sounds kind of weird.
we'll take it from the top again there.
Yeah.
For he, you know the master's will.
For he who knoweth his master's will, and doeth is not,
Doeth,
doeth,
is it,
Doeth.
doeth.
and doeth is it not, and doeth it's not it not. Okay. I really gotta try to get that because that's not sounding right.
Yeah, just slow down.
Yeah. But he who knoweth his master's will, and doeth is not, shall be beaten with many stripes. Stripes. What is with me in that saying scripts? Seriously. And thus, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, you guys, this is not going my way today. For he who knoweth, for he who knoweth his master's will, and doeth is not, shall be beaten with many stripes. And thus have I chastened you. And then chastened you. And the Negroes found fault and murmured against me, saying that if I had my sense, they would not serve any master in the world. And about this time I had a vision, and I saw white spirits and black spirits engaged in battle. And the sun was dark, the thunder rolled in the heavens, and blood flowed in the streams. And I heard a voice saying,
Such is your luck, such your cause to see, and let it come rough or smooth, you must surely bear it.
I now withdrew myself as much as my situation would permit, for the intercourse of my fellow servants, for the avowed purpose of serving the Spirit more fully, and it appeared to me and reminded me of the things it had already shown me, and that it would then reveal to me. Why does that seem like reveal? Well, maybe I'm just pronouncing it too properly. Oh, spelled different. That's why. Sorry. And then it would reveal to me the knowledge of the elements, the revolution of the planets, and the operation of tides and changes of the seasons.
After this revelation in the year 1825, and the knowledge of the elements being made known to him, Nat sought more than ever to obtain true holiness before the great day of judgment should appear.
And then I begun to receive the true knowledge of faith. And from the first step of righteousness until the last, I was made perfect. And the Holy Ghost was with me and said,
Behold me as I stand in the heavens.
And I looked, and I saw the forms of men in different attitudes. And there were lights in the sky to which the children of darkness gave other names than what they really were. For they were the lights of the Savior's hands, stretched forth from east to west, even as they were extended on the cross of Calvary for the redemption of sinners. And I wondered greatly at these miracles, and prayed to be informed of the certainty of the meaning thereof, and shortly afterwards, while laboring in the field, I discovered drops of blood on the corn as though it was dew from heaven. And I communicated this to many, both white and black, in the neighborhood. And then I found on the leaves in the woods hieroglyphic characters and numbers, with the forms of men in different attitudes, portrayed in blood and representing the figures I had seen before in the heavens. And now the Holy Ghost has revealed itself to me and made plain the miracles it had shown me. For in the blood of Christ had been shed on this earth and had ascended to heaven for the salvation of sinners, and was now returning to earth again in the form of dew. And the leaves on the trees bore the impression of figures I had seen in the heavens. It was plain to me that the Savior was about to lay down the yoke he had borne for the sin of man, and the great day of judgment was at hand. About this time, I told these things to a white man,
Ethelred T. Bradley.
on whom it had a wonderful effect, and he ceased from his wickedness, and was attacked immediately with a continuous eruption, and blood oozed from his pores.
Cutaneous.
What did I say this time?
Let's not repeat the mistakes. It's just cutaneous.
I could have sworn I said that.
You did.
I didn't.
No, you did.
Okay. And ceased from his wickedness, and was attacked immediately with a cutaneous eruption, and blood oozed from the pores of his skin. And after praying and fasting 9 days, he was healed, and the Spirit appealed to me again and said,
As the Savior had been baptized, so should we be also.
and when the white people would not let us be baptized by the church, we went down into the water together, in the sight of many who reviled us.
Revived.
Reviled us. I had it right. Why do I want to say revealed that too?
We'll have to ask that question one day in the post-show conversation.
Okay. Okay.
You good?
I'm good. It's just at this point in time, I should not be making the same mistakes.
Don't be so hard on yourself. That's
Well,
what
I'm always critical and hard on myself because for some reason I want to keep saying that word and I don't know why. All right.
We can actually play it up. A lot of people who are autodidacts, who learn by reading rather than listening, will mispronounce words because they see them and there's nobody to correct their pronunciation.
Mm-hmm.
So we may end up just saying, okay, this is a character trait of Nat's. He has a large vocabulary, but he has a tendency to mispronounce things because he learned by reading on the slide instead of listening.
Okay, no, we're not going to do that. And we're baptized by the Spirit. And we're baptized by the Spirit. After this, I rejoiced greatly and gave thanks to God. And on the 12th of May, 1828, I heard a loud noise in the heavens. And the Spirit instantly appeared to me and said, the serpent was loosened. And Christ had laid down the yoke he had borne for the sins of man. And that I should take it on and fight against the serpent. For the time was fast approaching when the first shall be last, and the last shall be first.
Do you not find yourself mistaken now?
Was not Christ crucified? And by the sins in the heavens, that it would make,
Signs.
and by the signs in the heavens, that it would make known to me when I should commence that great work. And until the first sign appeared, I should conceal it from the knowledge of men, and on the appearance of the sign.
The eclipse of the sun last February.
I should arise and prepare myself and slay my enemies with their own weapons. And immediately, on the sign appearing in the heavens, and the seal was removed from my lips, and the communication and I communicated the great work laid out for one to do to four in whom I had the greatest confidence: Henry, Hart, Nelson, and Sam. It was intended by us to have begun the work of death on the 4th of July last. Many were the plans formed and rejected by us, and it affected my mind to such a degree that I felt sick, and the time passed without our coming to any determination how to commence. Since forming new schemes and rejecting them when the sign appeared again, which determined me not to wait longer, since the commencement of 1830, I had been living with Mr. Joseph Travis, who was to me a kind master and placed the greatest confidence in me. In fact, I had no cause to complain of his treatment.
On Saturday evening of the 20th of August, it was agreed between Henry, Hawk, and Nat to prepare a dinner the next day for the men they expected, and then to concert a plan, as they had not yet determined on any. Hawk, on the following morning, brought a pig, and Henry brandy. And, being joined by Sam, Nelson, Will, and Jack, they prepared in the woods the dinner.
Well, about 3 o'clock, I joined them.
Why were you so backward in joining them?
The same reason that had caused me not to mix with them for years before. I saluted them on coming up and asked Will how came he here? How came he there? He answered, his life was worth no more than others, and his liberty as dear to him. I asked him if he thought to obtain it. He said he would or lose his life. This was enough to put him in full confidence. Jack, I knew, was only a tool in the hands of Hart. It was quickly agreed we shall commence at home.
Mr. J. Travis.
On that night, and until we had armed and equipped ourselves and gathered sufficient force, neither age nor sex was to be spared.
Which was invariably adhered to.
We remained at the feast until about 2 hours in the night, when we went to the house and found Austin. They all went to the cider press and drank except myself.
On returning to the house, Hawk went to the door with an axe for the purpose of breaking it open, as they knew they were strong enough to murder the family if they were awakened by the noise. But reflecting that it might create an alarm in the neighborhood, they determined to enter the house secretly and murder them whilst sleeping.
Hart got a ladder and set it against the chimney, on which I ascended, and hoisting a window, entered and came downstairs, unbarred the door, and removed the guns from their places. It was then observed that I must spill the first blood, on which, armed with a hatchet and accompanied by Will, I entered my master's chambers. It being dark, I could not give a death blow. The hatchet glanced from his head. He sprung from the bed and called his wife.
Her name now forever lost to history.
It was his last word. Will laid him dead with the blow of his axe, and Mrs. Travis shared the same fate as she lay in bed.
The murder of this family, 5 in number, was the work of a moment. Not one of them awoke.
There was a little infant sleeping in the cradle that was forgotten until we had left the house and gone some distance, when Henry and Will returned and killed it. We got here 4 guns that would shoot and several old muskets with a pound or 2 of powder. We remained some time at the barn, where we paraded. I formed them in a line as soldiers, and after carrying them through all the maneuvers I was master of, marched them off to Mr. Francis, about 600 yards distance.
Sam and Will went to the door and knocked. Mr. Francis asked who was there. Sam replied it was him, and he had a letter for him, on which he got up and came to the door. They immediately seized him, and dragging him out a little from the door, he was dispatched by repeated blows on the head. There was no other white person in the family. They started from there for Mrs. Reese's, maintaining the most perfect silence on their march, where, finding the door unlocked, they entered and murdered Mrs. Reese in her bed while sleeping. Her son awoke, but it was only to sleep the sleep of death. He had only time to say, "Who is that?" and he was no more.
Turner.
Oh, sorry, I lost my place. From Mrs. Reese's, we went to Mrs. Turner's, a mile distance, which we reached about sunrise on Monday morning. Henry, Austin, and Sam went to the still where finding Mr. Pebbles. Austin
that's
Peebles. Just pronouncing that too today. Finding Mr. Peebles. Austin shut up. Austin shot him, and the rest of us went to the house. As we approached, the family discovered us and shut the door. Vain hope! Will, with one stroke of his axe, opened it. And we entered and found Mrs. Turner and Mrs. Newsom in the middle of the room, also frightened to death. Will immediately killed Mrs. Turner, with one blow of his axe. I took Mrs. Newsom by the hand, and with the sword I had when I was apprehended, I struck her several blows over the head. By not being able to kill her, as the sword was dull, Will turned around and discovering it, dispatched her also.
A general destruction of property and search for money and ammunition always succeeded the murders. By this time, the company amounted to 15, and 9 men mounted, who started for Mrs. Whitehead's. The other 6 were to go through a bit highway to Mr. Bryant's and rejoin the main party at Mrs. Whitehead's.
As we approached the house, we discovered Mr. Richard Whitehead standing in the cotton patch near the lane fence. We called him over into the lane. Mr. Whitehead! Will, the executioner, was near at hand, with his fatal axe to send him to an untimely grave. As we pushed on to the house, I discovered someone run round the garden, and thinking it was some of the White family, I pursued them, but finding it was a servant girl belonging to the house. I returned to commence the work of death, but they whom I left had not been idle. All the family were already murdered, but Mrs. Whitehead and her daughter Margaret. As I came round to the door, I saw Will pulling Mrs. Whitehead out of the house. And at the steps, he nearly severed her head from her body with his broad axe. Miss Margaret, when I discovered her, had concealed herself in the corner formed by the projection of the cellar cap from the house. On my approach, she fled, but soon overtaken, and after repeated blows with a sword, I killed her by a blow on the head with a fence rail.
At this point, I need to go so I can do my shift for the walking tour, and we're halfway through anyway, so.
On my reaching Mrs. Go ahead.
So we can do 10 through 18 next time.
Or we can do it tonight if you want to do a phone one.
I wanted to can I do tonight? Yeah, we can finish tonight if we want to.
Yeah, would that be okay with you?
Yeah.
All right, about 7:30?
Works for me.
Works for me.
Okay. And I also wanted to point to your attention, Lou Brock did a reading, no, Brock Peters, I'm sorry. Brock Peters has a reading of the Confessions on YouTube. Have you heard it?
I haven't heard that one, but I'm familiar with Brock Peters. He was the Admiral in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and played Sisko's father on DS9.
Okay, well, that fellow has a reading of the Confessions that I would encourage you to take a listen to. It's really powerful.
Yeah, he's got a very deep voice.
So, so you have the internet home, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, Brock Peters, I encourage you to take a listen to that. All right, and then I'll be on the phone with you this evening. Thank
Lou
you.
Brock was a better shortstop, though.
Oh, that's who it was. I was switching around with. Okay.
All right, I'll see you guys later.
Alrighty. Wake up early.